During the COVID lockdown, something extraordinary happened. The viewership of the iconic TV series The Sopranos soared by a staggering 179%. And what fueled the surge in popularity? It was none other than the captivating podcast Talking Sopranos, featuring the talented duo of Michael Imperioli and Steve Schirripa. But that's not all. The anticipation surrounding the release of the prequel film, The Many Saints of Newark, has breathed new life into the series, reigniting the passion and fascination of fans worldwide. It's no wonder that The Sopranos is hailed as one of the greatest television shows ever created. But how exactly was the man of the show? How was his journey? The burning question that lingers in the minds of fans is one that Michael Imperioli himself posed during the podcast's early episodes. Is Tony Soprano a hero or a villain? And in response, Schirripa wisely remarked, "I think he's both." The dual nature of Tony Soprano, a character who manages to straddle the line between good and evil, played a pivotal role in captivating audiences. Despite being a murderer, a drug dealer, thief, and adulterer, Tony Soprano somehow managed to win the hearts of viewers, leaving them perplexed yet undeniably captivated. However, even a demon like Tony Soprano has a soft side. His intriguing infatuation with his psychiatrist, Dr. Jennifer Melfi, adds depth and complexity to his character. Throughout the series, a palpable tension simmers between them, hinting at the possibility of a forbidden love affair. Initially resistant to therapy, Tony keeps his vulnerabilities and true self hidden from Melfi, but she gradually helps him peel back the layers, exposing his deep-seated resentment towards his mother and addressing his debilitating panic attacks by delving into his family dynamics. As the series unfolds, Tony's secret obsession with Melfi becomes more apparent, adding yet another fascinating layer to his already intricate persona. Tony's infatuation with Melfi drives him to pursue her romantically and confess his love for her. Melfi, being the astute therapist she is, explains that this type of infatuation is a common phenomenon between patients and their therapists. In Tony's eyes, Melfi becomes his savior, embodying the qualities that his wife and mother lack. For example, in Season 3, when Tony's wife Carmela finds an expensive bracelet hidden in Tony's car, suspicious, she confronts him about it. Tony initially denies any wrongdoing but eventually admits that he bought the bracelet as a gift for Dr. Melfi, claiming it was a gesture of gratitude for helping him through his struggles. This speaks volumes about Tony's yearning for redemption and his desire to be deserving for his family's love, revealing that there is more to him than just a ruthless mafia boss. As Melfi's patient, Tony's involvement in organized crime created ethical dilemmas for her. His confessions revealed his criminal activities, exposing the darkness within him and the destructive influence he had on others. Melfi also developed an emotional connection to Tony but maintained professional boundaries, refusing any romantic involvement. In Season 3, Episode 4, during a therapy session, Dr. Melfi expressed her deep attraction towards Tony Soprano, her patient. She acknowledged his charisma, intelligence, and powerful presence, which make it challenging for her to resist her growing feelings. However, despite her personal desires, Dr. Melfi remains committed to her professional ethics and maintains the appropriate boundaries of their therapeutic relationship. She recognizes the potential harm that acting on her emotions could cause, both to Tony and to her own reputation as a therapist. With great discipline and emotional maturity, she restrains herself from crossing the line and continues to provide Tony with the necessary guidance and support without compromising her professional integrity. Rather, Tony's presence caused stress and anxiety and emotional turmoil. She questioned the effectiveness of therapy for his personality disorder. Melfi even faced threats to her safety due to her association with Tony, adding to her fear and paranoia. Unfortunately, her character did not receive a definitive resolution, reflecting the theme of collateral damage in the series. On the other hand, Tony's fixation on Melfi reflects his fear of losing loved ones, like the ducks in the first episode. With Melfi's guidance, Tony realizes the need for redemption and embarks on a journey of self-discovery. His attraction to Melfi becomes a manifestation of this path. Breaking free from old habits and the mafia proves difficult for Tony. Despite engaging in multiple love affairs, his infatuation with Melfi is unique. Melfi helps him understand that his panic attacks stem from generational trauma, not a family curse. Despite initially resisting therapy, Tony unconsciously desires salvation, leading to a strong attraction to Melfi. The Sopranos took a daring and groundbreaking approach to storytelling. It presented a classic tale of a man making a deal with the devil, but with a twist. Instead of sympathizing with the man, the audience found themselves empathizing with the devil. Throughout the series, Tony commits or orders the murders of several individuals, including his closest friend, the son of one of his trusted associates, his own cousin, his nephew's fiancée, and even his beloved protege nephew. Yet, through the masterful collaboration between creator David Chase and the immensely talented actor James Gandolfini, viewers found themselves rooting for the monstrous character. Tony Soprano is unquestionably not a hero. The real question we should be asking is Tony a villain or a victim? Tony Soprano broke new ground as a mainstream television character by offering a glimpse into villainy from the perspective of the villain himself. And what we learned is that no one sees themselves as the bad guy in their own story. Tony strives to be a good father, and to some extent a good husband. As despicable as his actions may be, he still manages to surpass the moral shortcomings of his own father. In one of his therapy sessions with Dr. Melfi, Tony chillingly describes how his father's preferred tool for child development was a belt. These therapy sessions serve as a brilliant means of allowing the audience to delve into the mind of a monster. Initially seeking therapy for his panic attacks, Tony gradually uncovers the deep-seated memories that haunt him. As a child, he secretly witnesses his gangster father severing a man's finger as punishment for unpaid gambling debts. Additionally, Tony's mother, Livia, proved to be a source of constant emotional turmoil, threatening to gouge his eye out with a fork and openly expressing her desire to smother him and his sisters. These traumatic experiences left Tony emotionally scarred, navigating a treacherous minefield to avoid setting off his mother's explosive anger. Psychologist Thomas Achenbach made a distinction between two types of behaviors children adopt to cope with stress: internalizing and externalizing. Tony, due to his love for his mother, suppressed his externalizing tendencies as a child. Instead, he internalized his stress, leading to panic attacks and depression. Effects that Dr. Melfi aptly describes as depression is rage turned inward. As an adult, Tony's unacknowledged rage against his mother bubbles to the surface in a powerful scene early in the series. Today, it may be seen as a bit on the nose, but back in 1999, its subtlety was a groundbreaking concept for television. In this particular episode, Tony discovers that his mother struggles with operating her phone's answering machine. Later, when he witnesses one of his employees having the same difficulty, Tony unleashes his pent-up anger and violently attacks the hapless individual. This moment serves as a poignant representation of Tony's true feelings towards his mother, a well of emotions that he directs towards himself or others. Tony's panic attacks served as harbingers of impending fear and violence, foreshadowing the turmoil to come. For instance, in Season 2 of the show, Tony Soprano tries to reintegrate Richie April into his crew after Richie is released from prison. During a heated conversation between the two, Tony unconsciously realizes that Richie will never be content working for him, and that he may need to eliminate Richie. Suddenly after their conversation, Tony is struck by a panic attack and collapses. One of the main reasons Tony's panic attacks gradually ceased was his therapy sessions with Dr. Melfi, which provided an outlet for the stress and guilt he felt from his violent actions. Therapy allowed him to alleviate some of the burden while continuing to engage in criminal behavior. However, his conscience was never completely at ease. Throughout the series, it is implied that Tony is plagued by self-reproach, stemming from his criminal activities. He faces two choices to manage the guilt: changing his actions or reinterpreting them to alleviate the guilt. Dr. Melfi, in an impartial and non-judgmental manner, attempts to guide Tony towards changing his behavior, but often their sessions merely enable him to rationalize his actions and continue his criminal ways. Tony's panic attacks fade with therapy and medication, but return later when Johnny's acrimony unintentionally triggers him. Tony realizes he must kill his cousin to avoid a gang war, leading to overwhelming guilt and stress, causing him to collapse. Despite his flaws, viewers empathize with Tony due to his relatable struggles as a father, husband, and caretaker. However, can these aspects alone justify why the audience roots such a morally compromised character? One reason viewers may excuse Tony Soprano's misdeeds is because they sympathize with his circumstances. In fact, researchers from Harvard Business School and Northwestern University have proposed the virtuous victim effect, where victims are seen as more morally upright than non-victims who have behaved in the same manner. People have a tendency to positively evaluate those who have experienced suffering. The audience understands Tony's troubled childhood, so when they witness him committing reprehensible acts like violence or infidelity, they find ways to downplay or justify his behavior. Furthermore, recent research suggests a correlation between dark triad personality traits, that's narcissism, Machiavellianism, and psychopathy, and the tendency to signal victimhood. Individuals with these dark personality traits are more likely to portray themselves as victims, potentially seeking sympathy and leniency while deflecting attention from their transgressions. Does Tony view himself as a victim? Indeed he does. In the pilot episode, Tony describes himself to Dr. Melfi as a sad clown, outwardly laughing while internally crying. He repeats this characterization in Season 4, but Dr. Melfi challenges it, stating that she has never witnessed it. Tony's wife also provides a different perspective on him during a couples therapy session. Despite Tony's belief that he responds to inner sadness with outer humor and sociability, he actually expresses his emotions through rage and compulsive eating. Tony sees himself one way, but those closest to him perceive him entirely differently. Throughout the show, there are other instances where Tony presents himself as a victim. In Season 4, when his best friend from high school, Artie Bucco, attempts suicide and is in the hospital, Tony visits him and asks Artie to imagine finding Tony dead. He seeks pity on his friend in distress. In the following season, Tony's nephew, Christopher, accuses him of trying to seduce Christopher's fiancée, Adriana La Serva. Tony becomes furious and shouts, "So what? Can't I relieve stress once in a while? Don't I have enough problems?" Tony's crew restrains Christopher while Tony holds a gun to his face. Even at this moment, Tony pities himself and implores Christopher to sympathize with his situation. Tony is not simply a sad clown hiding behind a cheerful facade. He actively seeks sympathy from others, even as he inflicts violence on them. In a chilling scene, he beats up Jackie Jr., the college dropout son of his deceased friend Jackie Sr. Tony punches Jackie Jr. and says, "All I ever did was tell your old man what a good kid you were, and all you do is hurt me." By the final season, Tony had become even more morally compromised and monstrous than when the show began. Yet his panic attacks had diminished. Does this mean his treatment was effective? In the penultimate episode, Dr. Melfi terminates therapy with Tony, eliciting dismay from him as he accuses her of immorality. In her book, The Sociopath Next Door, psychologist Martha Stout explains how some individuals manipulate others by leveraging pity. Pity more than admiration or fear renders people defenseless. When we feel pity, we are momentarily vulnerable. Ultimately, if the devil existed, he would likely want us to feel deep sympathy for him. Are you a fan of The Sopranos too? What aspects of this character resonated with you the most? Did you find yourself rooting for his redemption or questioning his motives? We invite you to share your thoughts and insights in the comments section below. And if you enjoyed this video and found value in our analysis, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to our channel for more engaging content. Thank you for watching.